Welcome on into the NAIAFBALL live show, powered by AdCraft Custom Apparel and Merch, your custom apparel, merch, and uniform experts since 1974. Just realized that my camera wasn't working, so before I turn that on, I'll see what's going on with the camera. Helps when I turn the camera on, is what I find. You know, when the camera's off, it doesn't exactly perform as well, Matt.
Makes it hard to see you when your camera's not on.
That
I can
is
imagine.
that is a true statement. Man,
And
how much chaos, dude, was there this week?
yeah, I think we complained a bit too much about last week because what we were gifted with this week was chaos ball, to put it lightly.
And we're going to start here with that chaos, with Siena Heights pulling the upset on a Concordia, Michigan team that we really had high hopes for.
This one kind of hurt. This one almost felt personal, Corey. I feel like I've been talking about Concordia, Michigan a lot this season. Very talented team, taking Marion to the brink. A very good Marion squad. And Siena Heights was a team that we had our eyes on going into this season. It's completely fair, and this was completely on the cards. And I don't know how we just kind of let this one fly over our heads because Siena Heights is a very solid roster. Definitely takes out all of the positive momentum Concordia had going for them, even coming off a loss last week. I feel like they had a lot to build off of.
And look at that time of possession for Siena Heights. Almost 38 minutes of time of possession. That's approaching Army levels.
I will say it's hard to score when you don't have the ball, Corey. That's kind of what this one boils down to in a 3-point game. Stats like that are super important and obviously a main reason why they won.
Yeah, that'll do it. It is terribly difficult to score without the ball in your hands. Apparently, you can only do it about 2 or 3 points at a time. The next one up here, it's not an upset. It's but I'm going to tell you, Morningside had to score, I believe it was 15 points in the fourth quarter to come back and beat Jamestown. And honestly, that's as much of an upset as we've seen in the last 5 years against Morningside.
Yeah. This is, like you said, not an upset, but it almost feels like it. I feel like Morningside has not had to claw back in a game in the regular season in years. Maybe even it like Northwestern, maybe, but even then, like those games are pretty back and forth. So it was interesting to see Morningside have to respond. And granted, they did, and they looked good doing it. Lennox Brown was absolutely unreal in this game. But, Jamestown does give teams problems because they like to air the ball out so much. They get big plays, chunk yardage. Very good at doing that. So it makes sense why they had trouble. But, man, Morningside, by the week, I feel like, is coming down to earth a little bit.
Couple things I will point out on the Jamestown side. We talk about it's hard to score if you don't have the ball. Jamestown managed to put up 29 points despite only having the ball for 25 minutes and your quarterback throwing 3 picks. So, if that tells you anything about how this game went.
Yeah, it's it's impressive, honestly, from Jamestown that they were able to do what they did with having the ball for so little time. Um, and turnovers aside, like I don't know, the GPAC, like I feel like anybody can beat anybody in the GPAC most weeks, but for Morningside, this was a shock. But at the end of the day, like you win a game, you move on, you're 8-0. Like this isn't the end of the world by any means,
No.
but more stuff on film for other teams.
Now, Matt, I'm gonna let you chew on your words a little bit in the GPAC. Anyone can beat anyone else on any given day. Well,
Yeah,
here it is.
yeah, yeah. Tennessee can't win in the swamp. Dakota Wesleyan can't win in Sioux City, Iowa. Um, It's unfortunate. It really is. But I did say last week going into this game, Briarcliff always has dudes. They bring in guys in the portal. They have guys kind of go through their ranks. And it's just a place that Dakota Wesleyan in the past few years has not been able to play well at. And those problems reared their heads, in this one. It's very unfortunate. But Dakota Wesleyan still in the driver's seat for third place. They still have to beat Dort head up to accomplish that. Obviously, Dort earlier losing to Midland this season, but Briarcliff, man, very impressive showing for them on homecoming.
Yeah, it's going to be real difficult to do anything when your quarterback's 8 of 19 for 85 yards and 2 picks. It's just to get it done most days. So we move on. More GPAC action. Northwestern takes care of Dort. Jalen Gramstad's scary moment gets absolutely knocked into next week. We hear that he's going to be okay, which is a good thing for Northwestern. We'll see why after a bit, but Connor McQuillan, man, going from like having 2 rushes against Morningside like 2 years ago to being a lead back and receiver from Northwestern is the glow up that as a lover of the running game, I'm very happy with.
Yeah, it was great to see that he was putting up big numbers for them. Obviously, being a problem in both phases of the game for this Northwestern team, especially in a rivalry matchup like this, things can go sideways and get emotional very quickly. It was good to see Northwestern just kind of stay on path with this one.
7 of 13 on third and fourth down conversions will really get it done if you're Northwestern, and that just tells me that you weren't going to those third and fourth downs a whole lot. You were very efficient on first and second.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
The one that we were looking forward to heading out of the GPAC, College of Idaho and Carroll. Carroll cannot get it done. They dropped their first game of the season. This game was so even in every phase. And the only thing that I can tell you that really changes how things went is the special teams of Carroll. And nothing's going to look terribly out of place until I sort of explain this. 3 punts, all of them landed inside of the 20, including 1 touchback. Had a 34-yard average, which means, Matt, get it inside the 20, and it's a 34-yard average.
You're kicking from about a midfield,
Yeah.
It's not ideal.
It's not ideal. It means you're getting the yardage, to get you out of your own half the field, and then you're stalling midway, and you have to punt. Now, 2 of those, I looked at the numbers a little bit longer. You had a 4th and 12 and like a 4th and 10 that you punted on, but you also had a 4th and 2. And you're telling me that the 6th-ranked team in the nation cannot make 4th and 2?
It's a testament to how good these defenses are, man. Obviously, Carroll's slipping up a little bit, but if you're not confident enough on your own, on like your own 40-something midfield to go for it on 4th and 2, that's maybe room for concern, especially with how talented Carroll is on that side of the ball.
Yeah, that's their bread and butter. Running the ball. Yeah, and really, both of these teams had 50% plus third and fourth down conversions. If I remember correctly, I think this was the game where Carroll was 0 for 4 on 4th down or something of that nature. But was so good on 3rd down that they didn't need to be. Carroll still got a good season, but this is one that I think the coaching staff is going to look at that video and go, man, I wish I had that one back.
Yeah, most definitely, especially in a very tight frontier race.
Headed into the KCAC, Southwestern drops number 2 in a row, and I tell you, you talk about it all the time, I'm sure, in the locker room. You get a heartbreaking loss, you take that first loss, and what does your coach tell you? Do not let one loss turn into two.
Yep. Message was not received, unfortunately. And this is a very talented Bethel team that we were very high on preseason, obviously dropping some early games, but Bethel just absolutely getting it done off the back of DJ. Is that Sears? Is that how you
Yep,
say that?
DJ Sears.
Okay. Yeah, 2 touchdowns through the air and 100 yards on the ground. That's how you move the ball, man. That's very impressive stuff from their quarterback.
One of the leading rushers in the NAI in yards per game average, which for a quarterback, seeing that you have to deal with sack yardage, is quite impressive. We don't normally highlight defensive guys, singular defensive guys, but Doug Grider, 10 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, was an absolute force, just wrecking the Southwestern offense.
Yeah, that's an absolute game changer on the defensive side of the ball, being able to. Most definitely.
And then the Frontier did not disappoint in terms of chaos this week with Rocky Mountain, 4-4 Rocky Mountain, beating Montana Tech. Rocky's defense came to play. 4 sacks, 10 tackles for a loss, 2 forced fumbles, 1 recovered, 2 pass breakups. Graydon Buell was a man on a mission. 265 yards on 40 tosses, 3 touchdowns, $135 on the ground, adds another touchdown. But yeah, the Frontier every year does this to themselves.
Just when you think it all makes sense, Corey, just when it all starts to line up and look like, maybe things are shaking out. No,
Nope.
no way. This conference is so stupid in like the most loving way possible. I could say that.
You're not
Rocky
wrong.
Mountain, man, just getting it done. Like this Montana Tech team was looking very good going into this week, and we had a lot of questions about Rocky Mountain, and shut us up. Being in the backfield for 10 tackles for loss and 2 forced fumbles is a humongous stat right there.
Yeah. Now, hope you like forced fumbles. Because now we've got Evangel friends, where Evangel had 3 forced fumbles and 5 fumble recoveries. Now, I'm still trying to figure out how that occurs where no one forces a fumble, but it happens anyway. My guess is bobbled handoffs.
Fielder's error, should we call it? Maybe.
I tell you, Cavante Baker. I mean, now, okay, Friends is not a passing team. That's not what they do. But you really would like your quarterback to complete more than 0 passes for 0 yards.
Yeah, I think that's where Evangel made their money in this game. They were able to limit Cavante Baker because, as we saw last week, obviously he only threw and completed 4 passes, but 2 of them were for touchdowns. Always big yardage. Being able to limit that game and keep everything in front of you is, I mean, the key to beating a team like Friends. I was just impressed that the defense for Evangel showed up in the way that they did.
Yeah, getting yourself more chances at bat. Yeah, this is one that Friends is going to look back on and go, this was a 9-point game and we had 5 turnovers on the ground. We fixed that. We beat Evangel. But
really want that one back.
Yeah, I know. But you know what? It wasn't just the Frontier. It wasn't just the G-Pack. No, nay. Even the Sooner got in on the fun. Even the Sooner gets in on the fun.
Yeah, this was a fantastic game, honestly, from both teams, because both teams were making plays, converting on 3rd and 4th down, as you can see. Louisiana Christian, 40%. That's pretty good. That's about where you want to be.
That's the
On
only
those
thing I could
late
see.
downs.
That is the
Yeah.
only thing I could see.
Yeah. But Luke, is it Giron?
We'll go with Giron.
Giron, ultimately with 3 touchdowns, 53 yards on the ground. Gonna be the difference maker when you're dueling a quarterback like Palermo over there. He's good stuff, and being able to get out yardage him, outscore him, ultimately is what gets it done. But Ottawa's defense, how often do we talk about them? 13 tackles for loss and 4 sacks. I mean, holy cow.
You talk about living in the backfield. My guys were sitting there with pitch tents with campfires in the backfield. They had absolutely set up shop in LCU backfield.
Yeah, Ottawa, I mean, they came into the season. We had so many question marks about the positions that they fill. Some of the new guys that were going to be plugging into this. Extremely impressed with this team, getting it done against a very hot Louisiana Christian squad.
You know, we do not get a vote in Coach of the Year, and without fail, it just always goes to the guy who wins the Natty. But honestly, it should be Mike Nesbitt this year. My man has taken a team where you return next to nobody, and you've turned it into a respectable team that has a really good shot of making the playoffs. So, on that note, let's move into our top 25 media poll. Designed by Connor Darnell Designs, does some of the best work in the nation. NAI born and bred. I don't want to say which of the Oklahoma schools he's from because they're rivals, and if I get it wrong, he will come hunt me down. Neither of them play football, so I can't keep them straight either way, whether it's OCU or yeah, it's the OCU and what's the other one? USAO. I think he's OCU, but I don't want to put I don't want to stick my name.
Now you've done it.
I don't want to stick my name to it.
Wow.
I don't want to stick my name to it, but he does such great work, guys. If you need anything graphics wise, contact Connor. He does amazing work, quick turnaround, and does a great job. And so we see here we've got more ties. Yay, more ties. Morningside drops back one to tie for third with Indiana Wesleyan. Grandview reclaims that number 2 spot. Kaiser gains a spot there at tied for 6. Lindsey Wilson grabs 3 more with a tied for 6. Evangel has a first place vote. Sue me. It wasn't me, but I count them how they're submitted. Happens sometimes. Little annoyed at the Ottawa, Arizona, Texas Wesleyan thing. Where Ottawa of Arizona is a point ahead of Tex West. Both of them coming up, obviously, with Louisiana Christian moving 5 spots. Reinhardt has re-entered the chat as well as Kansas Wesleyan. There's so much movement. There's so much big movement. Dickinson State making the 6th place movement. I mean, I can't deny Dickinson State with 1 loss from being like middle of the top 25.
Yeah, it's the same conversation with Dickinson State every year. I mean, they're always going to be there. They're always going to be good. I mean, the question is always if they can make some noise in the playoff, which, I mean, we're still a few weeks out from that, obviously, having that conversation. But good to see him in the top 25. It feels right. It feels right. Friends obviously still in there. Dort's still in there. I think we did a good job this week. I really like the way that this shaped out.
I'm trying to look and see. Marion started out at number 3. I want to say they've been number 5 for, I swear, like 4 or 5 weeks now. I mean, they just don't move. Obviously, if they beat Indiana Wesleyan, they'll go ahead. that is what
Yeah.
it is.
I think also we should take a second to mention about Marion. Uh, they had like 5 interceptions
Yeah,
this
3 by
weekend.
one guy.
Yeah, that's insane. That is absolutely unreal. Marion's defense has been astounding this year. It is baffling.
And it wasn't against like some slappy. It was against St. Francis of Indiana, against the GOAT Kevin Donnelly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Now a 3-loss St. Francis team. I'm going to tell you that's as good as I've seen them in the last 3 years. I've been keeping my eye on them to see where they were going, and they've been able to put something together.
Yeah. Them and Indiana Wesleyan potentially clashing is just unreal.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is going to be primetime must-watch football.
The only my only gripe on that is going to be that I don't know where that game is this year, but either way, it's a pay-per-view game.
So
They sigh.
mm.
I understand,
Well, I
but
guess if
I hate it.
there is a game that's going to be pay-per-view, it would be that one.
That is true too. That is true too. We'll step aside here. We'll be back after a word from our friends at AdCraft.
So you want to create and sell custom merch for your team or business. That's exciting, but where do you begin? How much inventory should you order? How do you distribute orders? AdCraft has your answers. Streamline the way you offer custom merch by utilizing our risk-free web store service. We ship directly to each customer, and we have the fastest turnaround in the game. Raise funds for your team or get merch to your employees and patrons. Contact AdCraft today, and let's bring your merch to life.
They are the best. They are the GOATs. And I will never not say that because they are absolutely amazing. But you know what? So was Lennox Brown's performance this week. And he gets our Telemetry Sports Play of the Week. Contact Telemetry Sports if you want to see if the eye test matches the real numbers. Don't get fooled by somebody's, oh man, he looks like he's not going that fast, but he is. Get the numbers, get the film looked at, see for yourself. Contact our friends at Telemetry Sports. But let's take a look at this play here. Just takes it and gets through the Jamestown line and off to the races, topping at
There he goes.
18.8 miles per hour. I tell you, that's good quarterback. That's good wide receiver speed, let alone quarterback speed.
Yeah, that's just Mike Vick and Madden 04, like just completely unfair stuff right there.
Absolutely. So let's take a look at what we're going to be watching for. And I tell you, there's some good ones this week. Oh, man.
Oh, dude.
Oh, dude.
Oh, my God.
Our slate is stacked. Starting off, Indiana Wesleyan at St. Francis of Indiana. That one you can watch for free because St. Francis posts theirs on YouTube. Northwestern Morningside, the matchup that we wait for every doggone year. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing.
It's a beautiful thing. And the funny thing is, they will likely play more than once this year.
Oh, they definitely will.
Big surprise.
Oh, they definitely will. Baker Benedictine, the rivalry game, probably to decide the Heart South. That rivalry renews again another year. Lindsey Wilson at Georgetown. There's no relation between these two teams at all. No. The coach at one was definitely not the coach of the other 2 or 3 years ago. And the current coach of one was not the defensive coordinator for the other a couple, 2, 3 years ago. No, not at all.
Certainly not.
And then Carroll, man.
Oh, this is just, God, dude. This slate's crazy. Receiving votes, Southern Oregon out of all of this. Oh my
Okay,
God.
Southern Oregon's been receiving votes for like 2 or 3 weeks now. I'm just sitting here going, all right. I see you, Southern Oregon, at 4-3.
to be fair, you can't really go by record when looking at Frontier teams, I feel like.
You're not wrong. Some of the other games that I'm really looking forward to, Evangel at McPherson. That's maybe a little bit of a trap game there for Evangel after getting through Friends, and you know who Friends is, and now you have to go through McPherson. That's going to be an interesting one there.
Mm-hmm. Especially after, that is a trap game. McPherson's got a solid squad, man.
And then you want to talk about trap games, Friends at Bethel of Kansas. That's another good one. It's going to be...
No passes will be thrown, by the way.
Not wrong. Underrated game of the week is going to be St. Francis of Illinois receiving votes versus Olivet Nazarene. That's a play out game right there.
Mm-hmm. That'll be fun. That's always a good one.
But let's see. I think up next I've got my spot for... Yes, it is that time. I'm not going to do bracketology this early, but I am going to do a little bit of a quest for the red banner. And because we are nerds here and we love football, and yes, that is Durham Memorial Stadium, hospital right there, just in case anyone gets too hurt. Let's take a look at kind of across the nation what our clinching scenarios are. Now, there's only one team that can clinch this week, but there's a couple more that can definitely sew it up where it's all over but the crying. Starting at the top, Reinhardt is 3-0 in conference. They have a one-game lead over U-Pike and Union, which is exactly the way I thought this conference would pan out. Absolutely. Reinhardt just needs to win out. Pikeville needs to win out and have 2 losses by Reinhardt, as they had already lost to Reinhardt this year. Union needs a win versus Reinhardt plus another win out of the 3 in order to clinch. Frontier is not as much of a mess as you would think. College of Idaho is now in the driver's seat. They are on top via tiebreaker. All they need to do is win out. They have beaten 4-1 Carroll and 4-1 Montana Western. Both Carroll and Montana Western have to root for a College of Idaho loss. Montana Tech also needs a College of Idaho loss, but if they also win out and get that College of Idaho loss, there will be a multi-way tiebreaker as they beat College of Idaho. And I can almost
Montana
guarantee...
Tech pulling that off would be the most Frontier thing ever, by the way.
I was about to say, and I guarantee you that is precisely what's going to happen because #Frontier.
Yep.
It always
so
happens
good.
that way, honestly. Morningside and Northwestern both just need to win out. Win out, and you're in. They both control their own destiny, obviously. After Saturday, we'll know more. Dordt needs to win out, plus a Northwestern, plus 2 Northwestern losses. Sorry, as they're 5-2, they might actually be out of it at this juncture. They've got to root for absolute chaos. Going to the Heart North, Grandview just needs to win out. They're 2-0. Peru State just needs to win 2 out of 3 because they play Grandview. They just need to win the next 2, and they've got it sewn up. William Penn, which, again, teams being involved this late, I would not have penciled in William Penn, but here we are. Same thing with Clark. William Penn just needs to win out and root for a Peru State loss. Clark needs to win out and root for a William Penn loss. Go into the South. You have 2-0 Baker and 2-0 Benedictine. They just need to win out. just like Morningside Northwestern, these two are going to play Saturday. That will pretty much determine the destiny here. Mid-American Nazarene needs to win out plus have a Baker loss. Moval needs to win out and have a Benedictine loss. Now, again, these are exactly the two teams in Nazarene and Moval that we expected to be in third and fourth. Absolutely. Moving on to the KCAC Bissell. Ottawa of Kansas sits atop this division. I'm just going to let that sink in for just a second because Ottawa of Kansas is 4-4.
It's a beautiful thing, isn't it?
Kansas Wesleyan is 1-0 in conference. They just need to win out. I believe they still have a game versus Ottawa. It'll get settled on the field. Tabor needs to win out plus get an Avila loss. Avila needs to win out plus get a Kansas Wesleyan loss. Going to the other side, you have two 2-0 teams in Evangel and Bethel of Kansas. Obviously, that one's going to get decided on the field here as well. They both need to win out. Friends is rooting for an Evangel loss. McPherson is rooting for a Bethel loss to get back into it. Into the Mid-South, Lindsey Wilson and Georgetown, that'll get settled this weekend. They both at this juncture need to win out. Bethel is one game back, rooting for a Georgetown loss. Campbellsville needs a Lindsey Wilson loss. Campbellsville being that fourth team. Again, I love it. It's fantastic.
Not what we were expecting at this point. No. It's a 4-man race, I guess.
It is surprisingly still a 4-horse race, unlike the Mid-States Mid-East, which is a 5-horse race. You know, the more the merrier. Indiana Wesleyan and Marion again.
Yeah,
that'll get settled. They need to win out. St. Francis of Indiana needs a loss by Marion. To get back into it here. Concordia needs a loss by Siena Heights and 2 by Marion. Siena Heights needs a loss by USF of Indiana and 2 by Indiana Wesleyan in order to get back into it. Mid-States Midwest is a little more clear-cut. Roosevelt is on top at 3-0. St. Xavier's right below them at 2-0. Both of them win out, you're in. But, of course, they can't both win out because they play. Olivet Nazarene is 1-1. They need to win out and root for Roosevelt loss. St. Francis of Illinois needs to win out and have 2 Roosevelt and 2 St. Xavier losses. They are clinging on by the skin of their teeth. In the North Star, we have the only team that can clinch this weekend is Dickinson State as they play Valley City for the second time. If they defeat Valley City, they would be 2 up with 1 to play, and they win it. Waldorf needs chaos. Valley City State needs to beat Dickinson plus get whatever tiebreaker the North Star has. To the Sooner, Tex West needs to just win out. You got it set, but you've got a date with Louisiana Christian that you've got to deal with. Louisiana Christian needs to win out plus get an Ottawa loss. Ottawa needs to win out, gets a Texas Wesleyan loss. Langston needs to win out and get a Louisiana Christian loss. And then, last but not least, the Sun. Kaiser just needs to win out. You've got wins over St. Thomas and Southeastern if you're Kaiser, so those two teams need Kaiser losses. Florida Memorial needs to win out and get a St. Thomas loss, which look at Florida Memorial over here doing great things. I tell you what. And then
3-1 in conference, man.
I tell you. And they haven't even played Thomas.
Yeah. Wow.
That'll be a November 4th tilt against Thomas. That will be the Nighthawks Senior Day and Homecoming. And the only reason I know that off the top of my head is that if you tune in, you'll hear the dulcet tones of my own voice. And then Ave Maria needs a Flomo loss, an additional Kaiser loss, plus winning out. So the moral of the story is that all things will become much, much more clear after this week.
Yeah, and I think we should clarify something for chat, because Justin over here is asking if Marian and Indiana Wesleyan lose, are they out? That is not at all the case. There's still a lot of things that would have to happen, even if one of those teams loses, for them to be bounced out.
This is just for the conference title.
It's just a matter of yes, yeah.
I have no doubt that both Marian and Indiana Wesleyan are getting into the playoffs.
Yeah,
we've got a 20-team playoff this year. There's plenty of room for at-larges. You know, you're gonna have 7 at-large bids. That's definitely an easy thing to occur. Yeah, Marion can't only tie with one each loss. I was just thinking about that when I was looking at it and going, did I check my math right? And I might not have. You know, math is hard. So, yeah, there's a lot that would have to go wrong for some of those other teams to come back and win. It's mostly sewn up, but there's still a mathematical chance for some of those. And that is where it gets fun always, to look at that. Last year it was Point in the AAC and Mayville State in the Frontier, or not Frontier, the North Star, where they were in it super, super late, and we're sitting there going, oh, look at this. There's a lot of teams like that at this point that we didn't expect, and I love it.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, what else I absolutely love are our patrons, and we have more patrons now. Charles A. Flowers has thrown his name in with us with $1 a month. We appreciate you, Charles. There's now free memberships. Apparently, Patreon does that, and that's a thing now. That you can subscribe and have a quote unquote free membership. If you really can't do the $1 a month, then yeah, absolutely. That's great. But we do definitely want to encourage those who can to come on at that $1 a month level. It really does help more than you know. Keeps us afloat, keeps us going here. Because yeah, the travel is not cheap. I mean, just for one guy to go to national championship game, we're looking at, you know, getting up snugly and up close to, you know, $700, $800, $900, including food and everything. So it's and it's a labor of love. I don't get paid. Heck, even the Thomas money that Thomas thankfully pays me for doing their play-by-play. I sink it right back into NAIAFBALL. So we don't get a whole lot out of this except for the travel. So we appreciate our patrons for that reason, and they are DSU Cone, Bob Boone, Roger Meyer, Jeremy Vauble, Shirley Labella, Fred Christensen, Jerry Quickle, Ace Wellen, Marty Seabolt, Nick Ryan, Hayden Ferrigno, Kyle Gregory, Tyler Pierce, Justin Hoffman, Steve Speakman, Brian Shake, Julianne Shager, Nate Soapbeer, Stephen Cutler, Julie Lout, Tim Burrow, Dell Norton, Nathan Moore, Dylan Gonzalez, Ryan, Jason Crawford, Zach Ryher, Dustin Wilkie, and Charles A. Flowers. Well, let's take a look at chat and see where we are. Dickinson can't technically okay. Did I? Oh, Dickinson plays Waldorf. Yes. I am wrong.
Yes.
Well, Gavin, Mayville State just needs to go beat Valley, and then I'll be right. It'll be fine.
Never wrong, just early, as we like to say here.
Oh man, let's see. The NAI did finally get Baker in at 21. That is a true statement.
I feel like they've been getting hosed for a while on these polls.
For real. I mean, come on. Just like look at our poll and go, who do we not have in here that these guys have? Oh, I don't know. At 17? Good gosh.
Yeah. Well, and Baker got punished for what I think was an early loss against a really good team, didn't they?
Yeah. I mean, Baker's only loss was to Grandview.
Grandview. Dude,
yeah.
Come on. Yeah.
And
okay.
it's a 24-0 loss. Grandview's been steady whipping everyone else's butt.
Yeah.
Like,
and these are very convincing wins. I mean, take out Grandview, and this is an undefeated team that has only had one game come within a single score.
Yeah. I mean, and yes, they can prove it against Benedictine. Benedictine has an out of division loss to a Graceland team that had its starting wide receiver, its all-world starting wide receiver playing. I mean, I don't understand that with Baker, why that didn't, why that hasn't been that way. It seems odd. I mean, I get that you want to rank some Frontier teams, and I don't even know if the home office is given the Frontier teams their just dessert either. I mean, honestly, right now, in my particular poll, I think I've got, actually I can pull it up. I don't even have to guess. In my particular poll, I've got College of Idaho, Carroll, Montana Western ranked, and that's it. I'm not ranking Tech, Southern, or Rocky. There's just there's too much
the
going
Rocky
on there.
and Southern Oregon votes are interesting.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's pull up the NAI's poll real quick just for funsies. See if we can.
Oh, I've already got it pulled up. How about that?
Hot dang. Look at you being all ready to rock and roll. Let's see how much fun we can have here.
Southwestern's still ranked.
Okay.
24th in this poll.
How? Southwestern is receiving votes. They have 11 votes. It takes about, some weeks it takes like 25 votes to get in the top 25. Some weeks it takes like 16, like this week. Reinhardt's ranked for us and them at the same spot. Friends is not ranked for them. Friends is ranked for us. St. Thomas is about in the right spot. Tex West is in about the right spot. They are above Ottawa, which is good. Evangel's at 12.
Evangel. They only moved up one spot. I feel like that's kind of surprising.
I mean, yeah, and I just don't know. Evangel should move up because I imagine that the loser of Lindsay and Georgetown is going to fall below 12.
Yeah.
So they'll get something there. I do not think the loser of Northwestern and Morningside is going to fall past 5. Unless it's an absolute just hammering by one squad.
Yeah, Han Solo 93 in our chat also brings up a good point. Curious about Evangel at the end of the season, because obviously there's not a lot of hype. They keep moving up. We pointed that out last week. They've just been very slowly working their way up the poll. And I think this is an Evangel squad that when it's all said and done, I think will be a top 10 team. Obviously, knock on wood, because I feel like I've said that about some team. It has gone horribly wrong for me. But it's fine. Evangels at this point in the game solidified themselves as a top contender. That's very obvious, and I think they will continue to do that.
And I think their body of work is getting underrated is the problem. They started the
Yes.
year with a win over then number 20 Kansas Wesleyan. They beat the pants off of Avila 44-6. You beat Friends. You've beaten division-leading Ottawa of Kansas. Whatever. You're going to get a chance at McPherson. You're going to get a chance at Southwestern on November 4th, and then you play at home versus Bethel. Now, Southwestern losing does Evangel no favors, because the Raiders are just going to see a win versus a receiving votes or lower top 25 team. I do think that Evangel will probably get that first round bye. I think they'll get that first round bye. What are the odds the Frontier creates an East and West to bring in Mayville, Dickinson, and Valley City? I think it's rather high. I think the Frontier is extremely incentivized to do something. Because if not, they are absolutely 100% screwed.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really all there is to it. And I hate to say that, because I hate to see the death of a conference. But
yeah, don't ask me about that. As a Washington fan, don't ask me about the conferences, please.
So you've only got 5 teams. Now you'd have to bring in Dakota State as well. So it would be 4, because Waldorf's moving to the GPAC, and yeah, none of Dickinson, Valley City, Mayville, or Dakota, none of them can move to the GPAC, which makes more geographical sense, because all 4 of those are state schools. And being GPAC, you got to be Christian.
It's true.
So, yeah, I think the Frontier is actually pretty likely. And I think that actually works really well for the Frontier, because you're bringing, while they're not going to help your top level. I don't even think Dickinson helps your top level. You see over the history that Dickinson is a mid-level Frontier team at best. You saw what they did last year against a Montana Western team that was okay in the season. There was just so, but what that does for the Frontier is it makes it to where you have some teams that can now rise to the top out of your division and get those home playoff games, get those bye weeks in a 20-team playoff, and that really helps you as a conference. Dakota State's going to Division II in a couple years. I know Matt's going to be so sad to see them leave for Division II.
Oh no, how unfortunate. They have to play Mankato State every year. That's so traumatizing.
Yikes. I mean, we talk about like that area of the NAI being kind of weak, and it has been, but that level in D2 is fierce. There's nobody that wants any part of those teams like Sioux Falls and Mankato, and That's nothing that you want any part of. So let's see. We got anything else? Yeah, as an Oregon State fan, the death of a conference is heartbreaking. Your friendly neighborhood Washington fan doesn't know anything about that, does he?
Well, I can certainly not be happy with the way that basically the entire Pac-12 went about that decision. So I feel for Oregon State and Wazoo. I do. And I can't say I'm too happy about Washington, quote unquote, surviving. The conference shouldn't have dissolved in the first place, but that is for a different podcast because this is about the NAIA,
I was
where
about
that
to
would never
say.
happen.
I'm about to say I'm a 7-0 Florida State fan, and I'm really happy. All right, let's see if we got anything else going on in there.
Looks like we're good.
I think we're
Done reading.
good. I am trying to figure out some ways to continue to increase engagement. If I can find time in the old schedule, getting things on Instagram and Facebook and all that fun stuff is definitely my goal. So otherwise, we will see y'all then this upcoming week for a great edition of NAI football. We will see y'all then on the Twitter timeline.